Drifting in GTA is definitely one of the most fun things that you could do in this game, and there's a lot of cars that are really good at drifting and there's a lot of cars that are really bad at it. And today we're going to be going over the top 10 cars to drift with in GTA 5 Online. I hope you guys do go on to enjoy the video. Just before we get it started, be sure to check out Digazani down below in the description and get 10% off your order by using code Frolics. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get it started. So the first car we're going to take a look at is the Ballista Canjo, which is obviously a Honda Civic from back in the day, and it looks really nice. There's a lot of cool upgrades that you guys can put on it, and it's really not that expensive. Fully maxed out, if you have the trade price unlocked, you could probably spend less than $700,000 upgrading the entire thing, which is awesome. It is a pretty decent drift car, but for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of drifting cars that have front-wheel drive. I don't know what it is about them, I'm just not a fan of them. But if you guys do enjoy front-wheel drive, there's a few cars on this list that have it that are still really good drift cars with front-wheel drive. This car does have it, and it's still pretty good. Plus, the stance makes it a little easier, and it's definitely a fun car to drift with. Next up is going to be the Club. I call it the Bug because it's so tiny and so quick. This thing is literally one of the fastest little tiny cars that I've seen in this game. It's got a great acceleration, a great top speed, and it's really easy to handle, and it is front wheel drive. It is super simple to control around turns, and it just makes it a really good drift car. But it is front wheel drive, and I'm not a huge fan of front wheel drive drifting cars just because the way they drift. I don't know what it is, it makes it a little harder for me, and I'm personally much better at drifting with rear wheel drive cars. But if you like front wheel drive, these two cars are pretty damn good. Next up is going to be the Karen Futo, and this car has been in the game for a long time and it's been known for drifting. The best part about it is it's a pretty good drift car and it's extremely cheap too, so you can fully max it out and probably spend like maybe 200k max if you max every single thing out on it. And you can also find it on the street, which is awesome. The only thing I don't like about this car compared to other drift cars on this list is the acceleration is trash. It's been in the game for a while. It's literally a street car that you could find driving around everywhere, and it just doesn't accelerate as much as you'd want it to. So let's say you mess up on a drift just a little bit, you might not be able to catch it and like revive the drift in a way because the acceleration isn't that great, and it'll most likely just come to a complete stop, and then you'll slowly accelerate forward again after. But honestly, it is still an amazing drift car, and if you are on a budget, the Futo is definitely for you. So the next car on this list is going to be the Drift Yozamite, and it's obviously a pretty good drift car because it's called the Drift Yozamite, just like the Drift Tampa, but the Drift Tampa is not on this list. The Drift Yozamite is an amazing drifting car if you know how to drift it properly. Now with this car, you really don't need to use the handbrake ever. This car is literally going to drift by itself. All you need to do is go around a turn and then just start pumping the brakes, slow down, and you're going to drift everywhere because it's a drift car and that's what it does. So in reality with this car, if you buy it, you're not going to be pumping the handbrake, which a lot of people like to do when they drift. For me, I honestly like driving every other car on this list because you had to pump the handbrake and actually pull it, so then you can drift. With this car, you just turn and you automatically drift, and I'm not a fan of that. But if you are new to the game, this car is actually a pretty decent car to use because it really doesn't take that much skill to actually drift with it if you're okay with drifting a different way than every other car in the game does. And it is also fairly expensive, so if you are new to the game, I would suggest getting something like the Karen Futo instead of this because that's obviously a lot more expensive, but it is still an amazing drift car. The next car on this list is going to be the Centennial Classic. And yes, I have a massive wing on the back of it, but it's a drift wing. I don't usually put those wings on, but it's for drifting, so that's why it is on. It's an amazing car to drift with. It's got lots of cool components that you guys can put on the car as well, and it is a classic car, which I also like a little bit. It is a really fun car to drift around with. It's rear wheel drive, it's not too expensive either, and it honestly has pretty good handling and everything you'd look for in a drift car. I would say on this list, it's probably in the middle. If you guys haven't really noticed already, the cars at the start of the video haven't been the best cars in the game. And now we're getting into more cars that you would actually want to buy. So it's pretty much from the worst best cars to the best of the best cars. And this car definitely makes it on this list right in the middle. As they did in Tokyo Drift, let's switch it up and let's play with a muscle car. And some of the best muscle cars to drift with are going to be the ones from the Gauntlet family. Pretty much any of them except for the regular Gauntlet are actually good, and in my opinion, one of the best ones is going to be the Gauntlet Classic Custom. It's a beautiful car to drift around with. I have a lot of fun with it, and it's really easy to control. It's got a lot of cool upgrades you can put on it, obviously, and it's just a really fun car to drift with. You wouldn't think a muscle car would be better than certain other cars that I've already shown in this video, but in all honesty, it's probably the best one that I've shown you guys so far in this video yet, but it's not the best on this list. There's some more amazing ones coming up in a couple of minutes, but this one is definitely an amazing car. It's really fun and has lots of cool upgrades, so you guys can really mess around with how you want it to look and have a lot of fun on the streets. Now let's switch it up even more. Let's switch it over to an actual sports car, a modernized one, and it's going to be the Coquet D10. Now this car, since it came out, it's had really bad handling for an actual sports car to race with. But it's not bad when it comes to drifting. This thing can drift around like crazy, and it's definitely a challenge. It's not the easiest car to drift with. All the other cars on this list are a lot easier to drift with, but this one, it will literally fly around the corners. It's got one of the highest top speeds in the entire sports class category, and the acceleration is immaculate. So if you guys are going around corners with this thing, you will fly around those corners. So if you want a challenge to drift with, you've already used the cars that I've shown you on this list, and you want something that is hard to drift with, and you want to have more skill and become a pro, definitely take a look at purchasing this car. It's extremely hard to drift with compared to the other ones on this list, but it is still a lot of fun. Next up is one of my favorite drift cars, or just even cars in the game, the Pantera FF, and this car is awesome for drifting. It's probably like the second best on this list, maybe even tied for first, and it's honestly amazing. It's a little bit pricey for $1.4 million, and then when you upgrade it, you're looking at $1.7 million, but it's honestly worth it. It's a really fun tuner car. You can make a lot of cool customizations with it, and it is really fun to drive on the streets. The handling is amazing, the acceleration is amazing, the top speed is amazing. There's nothing bad to say about this car. It's amazing, and if you want an amazing drift car, this is definitely for you. Even for a beginner, it's definitely an amazing car, and you should definitely try it out. You guys have probably realized we have now gotten to some of the best drift cars in the game, and this next one is obviously really good too, the Elegy Retro Custom, the Skyline GTR. This thing is amazing for drifting. It's super fun. The biggest downside with this car though is it's extremely expensive. You have to buy it first, which is obviously free because it's the Elegy, but then it costs $900K to upgrade it, plus all the other upgrades. It's going to set you back well over $1.3 million, but it is honestly definitely worth it. It is so fun to drift around with this car. It's extremely fast too, and like I said, there's no problems with it in terms of handling, acceleration, top speed, or anything like that. And in all honesty, this car, the Pantera, and some of the other cars that I'm going to show you on this list are hands down the best drifting cars in the game, and if you want to buy them, these three are definitely going to be the ones that you should take a look at. Now it's time for the best drift car in the game, and that's going to be the Toyota Supra or the Jester Classic, but I prefer not to call it that because it's not a Jester Classic, it's a Toyota Supra. And this car is amazing for drifting. Even after I recorded this video, I was driving around with this car for like 20 minutes in-game, just drifting around corners. It is the best car in the game to drift with. It's not too expensive, it doesn't have too many crazy upgrades, but it honestly has some awesome ones, and you can make it look like the one from Fast and Furious. It's so fun to drift with, and you definitely need to buy it if you love drifting around in GTA 5. And Rockstar definitely needs to add drift races. If you guys have ever played the game called The Crew 2, and you've played the drift races in there, they're really fun. And I think Rockstar needs to add them to this game because they've been adding so many tuner cars that are awesome to drift with, and we don't have any drift races. We need one in GTA, so if you guys know any, link them down below in the comment section so people can try them out and add them to their game. But this car is definitely really fun, and I would highly suggest you guys buy it if you love drifting more than any of the other cars on this list. But if you're into some of the other cars on this list, definitely buy them because everything on here is definitely really good for drifting. Anyways guys, that is going to wrap up the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, be sure to smash a like on it, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and I will catch you guys in the next video.